Hey all, this is Junior Scientist, and in today's lecture, we are going to learn a difference between the mixture and compounds. The first point is like how compounds and mixture differ from each other. The first difference is about the chemical reactions. So, when it comes to a mixture, chemical reaction is not a mandatory thing to occur. It's like a mixture can be produced whenever you are going to simply mix the two stuffs and when they're not interacting each other chemically, and it's the simplest example of mixture is sugar and water. So whenever you're going to add sugar into water, sugar is going to act as solute who is in the less concentration, while in case of water, it is going to act as a solvent. And when the two are going to mix up into each other, they're going to produce solution or mixture. So simply they are going to mix and up each other. They are going to give you some sort of miscible solutions. It means they are not reacting with each other chemically. Meanwhile, if you make the solution or mixture towards heat, just like I gave example of sugar and water, when you place them on the heat, the sugar will simply eliminate from water, or maybe the water will eliminate and the leftover solution would be the sugar. So simply that is the possibility you can separate them. Next possibility is that when it comes to a compound, I am right here, when it comes to a compound, the compounds are going to react each other in a chemically. So chemical reaction is the mandatory thing to occur. So they must react with each other chemically. It means they have to react with each other to give rise to a new compounds. In that case, the mixing up of sugar and water is not possible. It requires proper chemical reaction with each other at specific temperature, at specific pressure. That is why we can call it as the compound. What happens in this compound is like oxygen gas and hydrogen. If they react with each other, they could give rise to something which is called as water. Whenever hydrogen, sulfur, oxygen, they just got combined with each other, they will react chemically with each other to give rise to sulfuric acid. So that is the thing what we could call it as a compound. So first difference is clear. It is when it comes to a mixture. Mixtures are those substances, are those groups which are not going to react with each other chemically. While when it comes to a compounds, they are going to react with each other chemically. So chemical reaction is mandatory when it comes to the formation of compound. Next point is like their composition of the mixture can be varied. How they can be varied is like uh, when you're going to produce a mixture, which is obviously a sweet mixture when it comes to water simply, and we are going to mix enough sugar into it. So it's not a mandatory rule given by any chemist like this quantity of sugar must have to mix with this concentration of water, with this amount of water. So simply both the concentration can vary. You can prepare a mixture by adding sugar into it. You can prepare a mixture by adding salt into it. But the thing is, their taste with that is another factor. While the composition of this mixture would it can be varied, but when it comes to the composition of new compound, it will always remain same. It means when you are going to react you are going to react hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen with each other. Their concentration, their ratio would always remain same. Then they would give rise to a compound. Otherwise, they would give rise to something else. So simply, first case was like they are not mandatory to react chemically when it comes to a mixture, while chemical reaction was mandatory when it comes to a formation of compound. The next possibility is like mixture. The composition of mixture can vary, but when it comes to the compound, their composition should stay constant. Their composition shouldn't be varying off. Otherwise, the compound would not be produced. So that is the possibility. These are the two differences. The third point is the property of the substances present remains same. When we make sugar or salt into water, sugar will always say sweet, salt will always stay salty. But when it comes to the compounds, they change their properties. So simply the properties of new compounds are very different from which they were produced. It simply means when we just take hydrogen, sulfur, oxygen, it is the solution made up of different gases like sulfur, oxygen, hydrogen are there. These are the gases. So when they react along with the combination of sulfur, they would give rise to a new compound which is called as sulfuric acid. So simply their composition may vary, they change their basic nature when they are reacting with each other. Meanwhile, if you just place hydrogen gas to react with the chlorine gas, these are the gaseous state. But when they react and they give rise to to hydrochloric acid, which is HCl, their composition or their formation or the properties of new compound would also vary. So simply hydrogen chloride, hydrogen and chlorine gas just react with each other. They give rise to hydrochloric acid. When they react, the two gases react with each other and they give rise to an acid. So simply their composition do vary from which they were produced. So these are the three differences. The fourth possible difference is that the substances in the mixture can be separated by the physical methods such as filtration. So simply they can be separated by using physical methods, but when it comes to the compounds, it cannot be separated into its element. Now, the simplest possibility is like when again we just take example of salt and water, and they give rise to a salty solution or a mixture. You can separate them by using filtration technique. What was it? It was simply boiling of something else and pouring the entire solution through a funnel, and that will left over some residue, some salt right at the top of the filter paper, and the pure filtrate, which is water, will enter down to the given cylinder or any beaker. Next is distillation. Distillation is what when you need a distillation tube and you engage the condensation process to make different passage of water cool so that the process of condensation occurs, and that also makes separation of the solute from the solvent. The next possibility is magnetic attraction. Simply, when you want to separate some magnet from the another solute in which it was being available as, you can use that magnetic technique. You're going to throw a magnet onto them, and it will attract the opposite poles towards itself, and in that scenario, it would separate them. The next possibility is that the compounds cannot be separated into its element. It is an obvious thing. If you use, if you are producing sulfuric acid, you cannot separate hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen from each other. So, in the simplest way, you could say that these are the four major differences which we have learned in today's class. The first difference was when it comes to the mixture for the formation of mixture, they must not react with each other chemically. So no chemical reaction was needed. While in case of production of compound, chemical reaction was a mandatory step to occur. In the second point, we just learned the composition of the mixture may vary from like mixture to mixture. Also, they vary the concentration of solute in order to give rise to different give different mixture. Next possibility is that the composition of the new compound is always the same. So you cannot make any changes in the ratio. They should always stay as a fixed position. So variation and similarity is the second point. The third point is like the properties of the substances present remains the same. The properties should not change. The properties remains constant. The third difference is that in the formation of new compounds, their properties may vary. Even they entirely stay different from which they were produced. The fourth and the last difference is that the substances can be separated in a mixture by using different physical methods such as distillation, filtration, magnetic attraction, and also you cannot separate the elements when it comes to the formation of compounds. So they always just when once they take the new form, the new chemical form, they are not going to make any changes into them. So that's it for today. Uh, Stay tuned to the channel, like and subscribe, and also hit the channel if it's helping you, if you have learned a single line